Imagine the most powerful being in the universe standing trial for his life. The courtroom is in absolute chaos. Accusations are flying, witnesses are shouting, and yet the defendant remains completely still. If you've ever been falsely accused or even just misunderstood, you know the physical reaction. Your heart races, you want to interject, to correct the record, to clear your name. It is a deeply ingrained human survival instinct to defend yourself. On the night before his execution, Jesus was subjected to 6 separate, illegal trials. He was dragged through religious councils and Roman governors, all operating under the cover of darkness. He possessed the intellect to dismantle every argument they presented. He had the power to shatter the entire proceeding. Instead, he chose silence. His silence was a specific procedural maneuver. He was following a strategy designed to shift the liability of a debt that had been accruing for generations. Looking at Good Friday through this legal lens transforms the narrative. The cross stops being a place of defeat and becomes an office of strategic authority where a king is finalizing a massive transaction. The legal proceedings began late Thursday night, immediately following an arrest among the twisted olive trees on the Mount of Olives. From the garden, armed guards marched him to the estate of Caiaphas, the high priest, where the religious elite, the Sanhedrin, had hastily assembled. The Sanhedrin immediately broke their own judicial laws. They convened a capital trial in the middle of the night and brought in witnesses whose testimonies directly contradicted one another. Amidst these glaring legal violations, Jesus remained mute. By refusing to speak, he satisfied a specific ancient prophecy recorded by Isaiah centuries earlier, that the Messiah would be led like a lamb to the slaughter, opening not his mouth. Because the religious leaders couldn't legally execute him themselves, they were forced to transfer jurisdiction. They handed him over to the occupying Roman Empire, specifically to the prefect Pontius Pilate. By refusing to participate in these corrupt proceedings, Jesus forced the authorities to officially condemn an objectively innocent man. This condemnation of the innocent was the specific trigger needed to activate the mechanism of substitution. To see how this works, we must look at what happened just a few days earlier. On Holy Tuesday, standing in the crowded courts of the Temple Mount, Jesus was far from silent. He faced a barrage of political and legal traps. When they tried to catch him on the issue of paying taxes to Rome, he noted the image on a Roman coin and expertly dismantled their argument in front of thousands. He possessed the rhetorical power to win any debate. But if he had used that same intellect on Good Friday to walk free, the rest of humanity would still be liable for its own legal and moral debts. This illustrates the substitution mechanism. When an entirely innocent party willingly accepts a guilty verdict, the law allows them to absorb the penalty for someone who is truly guilty. The innocent party takes the weight, and the guilty column clears to zero. This transaction played out in literal reality with a criminal named Barabbas. Barabbas was scheduled for execution, but his sentence was absorbed into Jesus's column, resulting in Barabbas walking out of Roman custody entirely free. The Roman cross served as a precise legal instrument. Rather than having his life taken from him by force, Jesus used the execution to actively exchange his life for ours. The location of this transaction was a hill outside the city called Golgotha. The physical reality involved severe beatings and the agony of a crown woven from long, piercing thorns. We often assume the victory of this story waited until the resurrection on Sunday morning, but the grace was actively working while the suffering was happening. As the soldiers drove the nails, Jesus spoke from the cross, saying, "Father, forgive them." By declaring this right in the middle of his execution, he was performing an objective legal release of a debt owed. True forgiveness is more than an emotion or a feeling that requires an apology. It is a hard, objective legal release. Think about the people in your own life right now. Who has hurt you, betrayed your trust, or damaged your reputation? You don't have to wait for them to understand what they did. You can utilize the exact framework built on Good Friday to execute a release of that debt today. The profound, deafening silence of that ancient courtroom carried a specific weight. It was the sound of a universal ledger finally being brought to zero.